Introducing Texas Pecan Gourmet Coffee from Werx. Start your mornings the right way with a handcrafted blend that captures the heart of Texas with every sip. This medium roast delights with tasting notes of rich pecan and smooth cocoa. Our coffee provides a comforting experience perfect for any time of the day. This small batch slow roasted coffee is a testament to quality and Texan craftsmanship. Order yours today and savor the authentic taste of Texas. Visit monkeyworksus.com.
All right. Hey, welcome, folks. It's going to be your SITREP at 6/5/2025. Come to you live here from the Monkey Lounge in the great state of Texas. And today we're going to be talking about what is happening with the Middle East. I do believe we've seen some strike packages go into the region, which is a pretty good indicator that things are about to pop off with Iran. We're going to cover the news with the latest and greatest on that. And then we're going to talk also about Ukraine and what Putin has to say with respect to the latest strikes that Ukraine conducted, that taking out a lot of the military aircraft over on Russia's side of the house. So, but hey, before we get started, let me do this. I want to take us over to the mini because I got something in the air I think is important that may also support the game theory with respect to the strike packages going into the region. I've got an unknown going in. It's a 747-400, which would tick the box for Night Watch. That's the doomsday plane. The 747 looks a lot like Air Force One. All right. Now, if that is indeed the case, look at this. This one is coming into the area. Notice it's flying incognito, NA. And I don't mean just not showing the name. I'm talking about incognito on every level and aspect. Registration's blacked out, country blacked out, serial number, age of the aircraft, right? And you can see it descending right now. So it's just past Bahrain. In fact, it was talking to the tower at Bahrain just a minute ago. It's now switched over to Emirates. Look, even the hex code is blacked out. Squawk. NA. All right. Looks like it's descending into either UAE or Oman. So eyes on that. If that is indeed SecDef or some other dignitaries going into the region, more than likely this could support the theory that things are about to go south or sideways with respect to Iran. So, okay, deep breath. We're going to come back to the strike package stuff here in just a minute. Let me take you over here to Skyglass. First and foremost, we're going to look at Europe. I was looking to see if we had any air refuelers in the region that would maybe support that 747 coming in. We do have one right here that is off over Constanta that was kind of running routes. Over Europe, if we look at it in its entirety, we're sitting around 150 on screen. Pretty high, pretty late in the day over there. All right. Then we get over the United States, you're going to notice the high flyers, 90,000 feet, way up there. About half the country is covered in some type of an ISR capability. So that's intel, surveillance, reconnaissance, right? You can see all the yellow rings, right? Pretty good indicator. Now, I've stripped out all the trainers, but let's go take a look at one thing I think that is definitely getting my attention this morning. Very early and off to a big start here. That is going to be the 60s, right? Your Blackhawks, as you can see, very active from North Carolina north, all right? And this stuff down in the Panhandle, more than likely, this is tied to training activity. Then you got border stuff here. Florida's got a lot of activity going on from the 60s perspective. But 41, that's slightly elevated, and the day is yet young, okay? So then we drop down. Let's look at KC-135s. 24 of those up, and all of them are over the United States. 767-200, the Pegasus, that's another refueling capability. That too, if you tie those in, we're at 35. So we're 10 higher than our average baseline of 25. Again, that's a big indicator that there is a lot of fighter activity going on over the U.S. Now, I do have a couple others. I got a Q9 over Japan. I've got a Q4 over Malta. But let's just go ahead and start peeling this back. I'm going to start off in the intel side of the house, all right? ISR, this is going to be LaSalle Aviation for the most part, doing little third-party stuff. Now, you'll notice this in Australia, Little blip there. It's been moving around. It was over in Perth. Now it's on the East Coast. You totally expect to see that over Gaza. And then, of course, my screen jumping around on me a little. But you can see kind of sweeping along, looking very closely at Belarus. And then, as you can see, up there into Russia. And then that looks like some SIG intel gathering in St. Petersburg, Russia. Right. Again, this is looking at Moldova as well as into Ukraine. Now, we take us over to the United States. You're going to see some man-in-the-middle circles, right? That's where that aircraft becomes the cell tower in the sky, and any phones that are in that region are talking to the airplane instead of the cell towers. Looks to be kind of hanging out over at the Georgia side of the house. And then, of course, southern flank all the way up the West Coast and over the mountains. Right, and you can see over South Dakota as well. So, all right, let's talk drones. Now, the drone piece, starting off in Japan, little blip out of Okinawa. That's more than likely Q9, Q4s. Down to Australia, I got nothing. Now, let's get over to the Middle East, and it does start to heat up a little bit. You can see something popping up at altitude over kind of the UAE, and then low-hanging fruit over the Mediterranean, just north of Tripoli. We've got a major civil unrest going on in that region. And then south of Crete, looks like a little bit there by Turkey doing their normal stuff on their western flank. Nothing up over Europe. Very unusual. When we get over to the United States, and you can see just some blips. You got stuff happening out over the D.C. area. You've got things going on over Southern California, headed up to Provo, Utah. Right, probably a home base operation. And then you can see as well, right there, south of the Canadian border, Winnipeg. All right. Now, let's take a look at bombers. This one's kind of interesting. This is B-52s and B-1s. I've got the B-52 showing in the picture. That right there, where you see it just kind of flying around and doing a lot of circles, that's because it probably came in from a mission with too much fuel, and it's got to do a fuel burn. So what they do is they drop flaps and landing gear, and then they just sit there and fly around and burn fuel so they can get to a weight that they can land with. Right. And then, of course, up over Canada, maybe some static displays, some touch and goes, just a little TDY. It's either coming out of Ellsworth or Minot. All right. Okay, R135s, we're going to start off. Let me just see what I'm looking at here. Yeah, this is signal intelligence. All right, and you'll notice right there over the Gulf of Oman. Again, this is a couple of days now we've seen that. The first time I think I've ever looked at Europe and seen nothing. All right, very unusual. Typically, you see Jake 17 out there doing something. Looks like something transitioned over to Asia, and then, of course, the usual areas here over the U.S. towards the Dakotas, Wyoming, Montana. Right? Now, let me take you away from this for a second and then look at the nuke sniffer last 2 days. Right? This is a R135 called Constant Phoenix, and it is looking for nukes. All right? As you can see, kind of headed out over Louisville, Kentucky. All right. Now, let's talk U2. Since we were in the ISR side of the house, you'll notice I just showed you one a couple days ago that went to Asia, right? Now you got this one, looks like it disappeared out over Canada, maybe going further north, maybe even up towards Greenland. Who knows? But there's your U2s. And then we get into the AWACS. Again, you can see man in the middle over kind of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, that neck of the woods just over the border of Belarus. Look, they're looking at Belarus because Russia has pushed a bunch of nukes into Belarus. All right. And you can see kind of out towards the Black Sea. Now this and these flights, that's France conducting those flights, right? This one, this is U.S. over the U.S. Just notice you got a broken trace, one that heads out East Coast. Again, this is an advanced warning aircraft, thus the acronym AWACS. All right. kind of over Louisiana towards the Panhandle and back. All right. Now, let's get into the news. And then when we get further back in, I'm going to show you the flights tied to the strike packages, etc. Okay. What I believe was what we witnessed going into the Middle East. And let's just go ahead and start talking about what's going on out there. Now, first and foremost, this one here, very troubling. And it just goes to show you, just like the blog that I wrote, look, you can destroy the United States from within and never fire a shot. This right here is a perfect example of that. Bioweapons, cyber attacks, whatever it may be, very dangerous on a global footprint, all right? But when they start trying to smuggle it into the U.S., thank God we caught them. But look at this. Chinese nationals caught smuggling the agro-terrorism fungus into America's breadbasket. It says that this particular weapon would have wreaked havoc on our wheat, barley, maize, that's corn, and rice crops, all right, while poisoning humans and livestock with its toxic byproducts. So we caught them, and we got lucky that we caught them, because had we not, this would have been in play. Now, the scary thought is, what have we not caught, all right? Because there's a lot that we haven't no idea it's even in the country, all right? Now, here's one for you, and this is very telling. When you want to talk about an economic collapse on the horizon, this right here, this is not good, folks. Trump wants a debt limit scrapped to protect America from an economic catastrophe. So he basically saying, look, get rid of all this debt limit stuff. Every time we have to go pass all these bills, he just wants somebody to give him a checkbook and let him go do his thing. Not good. There has to be checks and balances. That's the kind of mentality that has actually gotten us into the situation we're in today, because there have been no checks and balances. And we've got, a government that's gone rogue for the last 5 centuries. So I say centuries, 5 decades. Yeah, 5 centuries would be a little older than our country. So, okay. All right, let's press on with the news side. But again, we caught him. That's a good thing. All right, over here to the White House, what's going on today? It looks like the German chancellor is coming in to the White House. Again, maybe another indicator that Russia and NATO may be about to square off. When you start to see them coming over, they're looking for some kind of reassurance from the United States that we've got their back, right? So that looks like that is what's happening. Pretty slow day other than that at the White House. Now, we start to look closely at the NOTAMs. These are notice to airmen. This is like TFRs, et cetera. You'll just notice here in this region, you've got exercises scheduled, right? We get over here to Saudi. Again, aerial surveys. This is aerial surveys. These are both orange boxes. And then, of course, we've got all of these restricted areas all around Saudi Arabia. I noticed there are some very small boxes all around Iran. Same thing, okay? And then look at Europe. Europe is just completely covered up. I mean, absolutely insane. Sweden had a box this morning that was some type of an exercise that has since disappeared. All right, now it takes us over here to the U.S., and we're starting to get kind of busy here as well with a lot of TFRs over the United States. Danger boxes, and then this. And I don't know what exactly this is. VIP TFR. And it comes into play June, so it's June 7th and 8th. All right, so a couple days from now. So that's probably Trump headed up into this area. All right. Trump holds a 75-minute call with Putin. Not a conversation that will lead to immediate peace. That's coming from Trump. And on the Iran front, however, Trump said that he came to an agreement, it's in quotations there, with Putin. My guess is that, Trump probably told Putin, hey, look, we've tried everything we can to negotiate. I'm going to need you to kind of back away, stay out of this one, because we're getting ready to go, take care of business, more than likely. Or Israel's about to take care of business. So the fact that Putin is, got an eye lock with Trump on that, my guess is it's a mutual agreement, because here we go. Watch this, right? You get over here, and Trump tells Putin U.S. was unaware of the Ukrainian airfield strikes. Yeah, you remember that Operation Spiderweb? We just talked about that a couple days ago. U.S. President confirms Washington was not informed in advance of attacks that hit sites across 5 Russian locations, taking out like 40 plus aircraft. But this is the eye lock, right? Hey, we're going to take out Iran. Don't do anything. Putin says, okay, I got you. In return, I'm going to be taking out some pretty big stuff going on in Ukraine. I think it was called shock and awe. So Trump says Putin plans to retaliate for that attack. He hasn't done so yet, but it's coming. And here we go. U.S. Embassy tells Americans, be prepared to take cover as Kiev braces for shock and awe. U.S. State Department, Consular Affairs, Ukraine, Russia. It was in Ukraine. Russia has increased the intensity of its missile and drone attacks against Ukraine in recent weeks, and there is a currently a continued risk of significant escalation is really what it's going to with that. Yeah, it looks like the eye lock is, hey, we're getting ready to hit Iran. Israel's getting ready to hit Iran. And they're getting ready to hit Kiev. All right. Now, pause for just a second, and I would just want to back up a little bit. You may remember us talking about in the past the fact that Bibi came out just before the October 7th attacks 2 years ago, stating that the normalization agreement with Saudi Arabia had already been inked. It just was not officially announced. Have you noticed that Saudi has been very quiet as of late? Well, one, Saudi doesn't like Iran. So you're going to get full cooperation more than likely from them. But the other piece to that is Saudi actually assisted Israel in its attack on Yemen, right? In fact, they had aircraft flying with them. So this goes to show you that there is some type of agreement and an eye lock between Saudi and Israel that just has not been publicly announced. All right. So eyes on that, because when I talk about the normalization agreement between Israel and Saudi, you're talking about Abraham Accords. All right. Okay. Moving on. RZE. So we take a look at this location just because we're coming out of the Ukrainian piece and talking about it. I just want to look at what's on the board to see if anything is showing up here. And I'm not seeing really, I've got a national cargo, which is, tied to Omni stuff. That's it. And that's a 747. It's leaving, headed back to the UK. But I'm not seeing any other military stuff landing in Ukraine right now, which is kind of unusual, right? Okay. Now we talk about the Iranian piece. We're going to get into the details around them. Last time we got together, I showed you there was a flight call sign Iran 03 that came in from Venezuela, and then it went to Cuba, and it has since left Cuba. So it was on ground just, probably 24 hours or so, and it went back down to Brazil. That's where it is currently. So eyes on that, because if I look at what Iran has been doing, that's the only flight I've got, right? I've got nothing else, and that was the other day. So, okay. Continue on. All right, Biggs Army Airfield, kind of backing up on us a little bit because I did go to the Middle East. Just going to show you, this is the old Eastern Airlines, right? This is one of the Swift aircraft. This is arriving. It's a 737 coming in from Fort Hood. So possible that these folks are coming in, and then you'll see a flight going over to the Middle East. All right, Camber flights. I got one coming out of Burlington, Vermont, headed to Macedonia. All right. So let me back up, and you can see that's right there into kind of the Greece region. All right. So that's the only flight I got from a Camber flight, U.S. Transportation Command. Now you go look at The Brits, I got one coming out of Gibraltar. That's the only flight I'm seeing. Earlier today, there were several flights going into Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, in the region. Okay, we look at Ramstein, and this is where, as we start to get closer to the story, we're going to start to show you the flights and the traffic coming into Ramstein, into the Middle East, all right? So showing up, we've got, looks like a 747 in and out of Kuwait, C-17, C-130s, another 747 out of Dover. The Duke coming out of Wiesbaden, that's a base commander, right? And then you get over here and leaving back to Kuwait, and then this one's headed to Fort Dix, all right, Joint Base McGuire. Okay, so let's get into this Iranian piece. Trump says basically Iran is slow walking as Khomeini opposes a nuclear proposal. So I think Trump is starting to recognize the fact that this isn't going exactly how he thought it was going to go. I think it's going exactly how we all thought it was going to go. You can't make peace with Iran. At the end of the day, they'll lie to your face. And, these are the very people that actually have kill squads in the United States that are here to take out Trump, right? And he's trying to negotiate with them. So, but it says on Saturday, Iran said it had received elements of a U.S. proposal through the Oman mediators. That's where they met last time, the details of which have not been publicly disclosed. So there was a little bit of stuff in there basically saying, hey, you guys are, you're not going to be able to do much, right? And, of course, the Iranians immediately pushed back on it, sent a rejection letter. And it says here, the proposal presented by the Americans is 100% against the notions of independence and self-reliance. He said that on a TV speech. All right, so there's that part. Then we get to this. Khomeini basically taunting Trump. You cannot do a damn thing, is what he said, pardon my French or English, about Iran's nuclear program. Who are you, right? Basically, like, you're not going to tell me how to run my business. This is the same stance they've been taking since day one. They haven't even leaned into this on any level. All they were trying to do was come in, play the delay game that they always do, right? It's always been delay from the Iranians, and then get something from us without giving up anything. So they would agree to something maybe like, we'll let you come into our country and inspect areas that we have cleansed before you got there, okay? But we're not going to stop on any level the enrichment of uranium, okay? So you start talking about, well, what exactly does that mean, right? Let's just kind of go into the findings. So this right here, you got this guy, he's just going to lie straight to your face, saying, we're not going to allow any, that's Trump saying we're not going to allow any enrichment of uranium, and then of course Khomeini coming back saying, yeah, we're not going there, right? It's just not a good deal for them. So now, you just had a nuclear watchdog come in, and check this out. I'm going to read to you a couple of the findings here because I think it's important to understand why all of a sudden you may see things about facing, why you may see the doomsday plane with the SecDef coming in under radar to meet in the Middle East, probably to get eye lock with folks in the region. But it says here, a significant increase in enriched uranium stockpile. As of May 17th, 2025, Iran has amassed 408.6 kilograms of uranium enriched up to 60%, marking a nearly 50% increase since February, right? How long have we been meeting with them? Did I tell you they're stalling for a reason? Yeah, this is why, okay? Because they're trying to get as much stuff made as they can. The quantity is sufficient. If further enriched, you can produce approximately 9 nuclear weapons, right? Concerns over weapons-grade enrichment, the IAEA expressed serious concern over Iran enriching uranium to 60%, as it is the only non-nuclear weapon state doing so, right? This level is just below the 90% enrichment required for weapons-grade uranium. And they're saying to get to the 90% from the 60, it's a matter of just a couple weeks. All right. Total lack of transparency and cooperation, right? They criticized Iran for insufficient cooperation, particularly regarding undeclared nuclear sites and unexplained uranium traces. The agency suspects that Iran had a secret nuclear weapon program that was halted in 2003, but has not fully disclosed past activities. And then they say the potential for rapid weaponization. They're saying that Iran could enrich its current 60% uranium stockpile to weapons grade within 2 weeks. Okay, so there it was. 2 weeks, raising international concerns about a potential for rapid development of nuclear weapons. Remember, Biden was the one that released the sanction for their missile provider. Okay. All right. And then Iran has rejected the findings, asserting that its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes. Give me a break. All right. Absolutely just straight up lie to your face. Because we're the infidel, they will do that. All right. And have no qualms over it. So there you have that aspect of it. I think it's very important to understand it. Now, we get into, let me pop my screen back and make sure I've got the right stuff here. These are all the findings. I just talked about these nuclear watchdogs coming in and disclosing all of that. And, you know, you've got Israel basically saying, yeah, we're getting ready to go thump them. Now, these advanced packages, I'm going to show you first and foremost, C-17s going into the Middle East, all right? And you will note that starting off, we'll just get over here to Southeast Asia. You can see some things going into Malaysia, you know, Singapore, down from the Philippines into Japan, et cetera. A little bit of blip activity there. Again, this is a 7-day look. All right. Now look at how many traces come into the Middle East, right? Look at all of this, right? This was earlier this week, over last weekend, just stacking up in Doha, right? Heavy into Israel. As you can see the flights, heavy into Cyprus, heavy into Ramstein, right there. And then look at this sea of traces coming across the Atlantic off the East Coast and all the flights into Hawaii and back into the U.S. and probably across the drink. Why? Because if you're going to deploy F-22s and F-35s, you need to have all the logistics packages going with it, right? All the support stuff, right? Now, that was the 5 day ago. Now you go the last 2 days. We'll start off over here in Japan yet again. Just a little bit of activity down towards the Philippines. But then look, last 2 days as well, into Oman, into UAE, down into Somalia, right? Into Cyprus, same locations, into Saudi. Okay. The fact that they go in and out of Ramstein tells you that's U.S. military assets. A little bit up there in Iceland, and then we take us over here to the United States. A lot of stuff off the eastern seaboard, right, and up the west coast. Now we look at, let me take a look at the air refuelers. And the important thing is, I will just kick the tires down to Australia. But, right, notice the flow coming into Kuwait, pretty heavy, into Bahrain, pretty heavy, right? Now, somebody went into Lebanon, and I don't know who that was. But, right, you can see pretty heavy down towards Turkey. Broken traces disappearing. Again, this is a good indicator. We just brought a bunch more fighters over. Right? So then that brings you to the strike package, right? Look at all the flights going across the drink. Again, 5 days ago. Pretty covered up over the U.S. too. Now, take a look at the last 2 days. Let me advance you over. Again, you can see stuff coming into up the Mediterranean into, it looks to be Amman, Jordan. maybe, right? Some little marshalling patterns down towards Italy. Some stuff going into, looks to be Gibraltar. And a couple of flights going across. Again, that's just the last 2 days. But you couple all of this, right? And, everything that we've been seeing, pretty good indicator that you've got some strike packages coming in. Now, if you're wondering what a strike package is all about, this is just for visual sake, right? We're just looking Air Force bombers, okay? How many, the amount of ordnance they can carry, B-1s, B-2s, B-52. I was really shocked. It looks like the B-1 actually has, more in terms of total, volume. But look, you get into F-15s, F-15EX, F-35s, right? But, the way a strike package would come into play, you got bombers that would carry out a primary ordnance to attack the target. You got fighters that will provide aerial protection for the strike package, defending against enemy aircraft and ground-based anti-aircraft systems. You have SEAD aircraft, right, which suppress enemy air defenses, such as radar missile sites, right? So like your growlers and things of that nature. And then making the path for the aircraft less dangerous, right? So there's a lot of jamming going on. You got recon aircraft. So that would be like your Q4s, your Q9s, things that we see, in the region, very active currently, right? And those provide the intel before and after the strike, assessing damage and identifying potential threats. And then, of course, you've got air refuelers. We just talked about those, the tanker aircraft. And then AWACS, right? And standoff jamming aircraft. So those provide long-range surveillance and electronic warfare capabilities, supporting strike packages without entering the most dangerous of airspaces. So again, and then that doesn't include when you start really talking about things like cruise missiles, right? Because you would put in a lot, you could drop all kinds of cruise missiles into that region, taking out, radar, ground radar, missile defense, things of that nature before you even send in the additional strike package elements, right? So this is what I think we are putting into the region. You note, we just brought back the B-2s, but we've got B-52s parked in Diego Garcia. We've got them. They just flew into Spain, so they are very close to the region. I'm not seeing any flights for the ones that just came in, all right? Typically, you'll see them, they'll fly around, and they'll do their little parade kind of flight just to make a presence. I got crickets. Nothing over the region. All right. So buckle up, folks, because I think we are on the brink of something breaking loose. It could even be through this weekend. So just, stay frosty. Keep that powder dry, because if Iran gets attacked, I wouldn't be surprised to see some type of, counter, on ground guys here domestically in the United States try to do something back to us, because they will be scattered, right? Jeremiah 49, Iran is going to go scattered to the four winds. So, okay, that's it. What a time to be alive, you guys. Talk soon. God bless. Monkey out.